Hello, and welcome back to Journey Through the Pen. I am Lori, and today we are going to talk about legislators. This might be one of the most important videos that I'll do. So legislators, we're going to talk about who, what, when, where, and why about legislators. So legislators are important because they are the ones who make the laws that can change our criminal justice system and the prison system. If they aren't doing anything, then we aren't going to see any change. So it's important for us to know how to contact them and how to communicate with them and who they are and what they do. So the first thing is, who are they? So there are two links that I put on my blog, journeythroughthepen.com, on this article about legislators. And there's two links, one for senators and one for House representatives, on how to find out who yours is. Now, I email kind of all of them every month. I try to send out at least one email a month about prison reform and situations that have happened that month, because there's always something happening that is not how it should be. And I try to stay in front of them, and I try to, continuously bring up issues. So it's important, though, to find out who represents you, because at the end of the day, that's exactly what they're supposed to do. They're voted into office to represent you and I and what's important to us. So it's important to know who you're dealing with. What do they do? Well, they come up with bills that they hope will become laws. So the easiest way to have the process broken down, and the easiest way that I have found, as maybe childish as it is the old Schoolhouse Rocks videos and songs about "I'm just a bill." So I encourage you to look it up, because you're never too old for that. But it explains the process really well. So the legislators write these bills. They go to different committees to be voted on. If they pass the committees, then they go to the floor to be voted on. If they pass that, then they'll go to the governor, and ultimately he can veto it. But that's kind of the process. So that's what they do, is to write bills. So when do they do it? The legislative session for 2021, I believe it starts in January and ends mid to end of March. So we don't have a lot of time to get in front of them at the moment, but we need to let them know what we expect them to do. But even after session is over, it's important for us to stay in front of them all year long, so that they don't forget what needs to be done and what's important and what is not working. Once COVID is back under control, it's important for your representatives to visit prisons. A lot of them have never been to a prison. Now, a lot of them have recently. There are a few that are very interested in prison reform. But a lot of them have never been to a prison. How are you making laws and passing budgets for a system you have no idea how it works? So it's really important year-round that we stay on them, but especially during session, when they can actually get things pushed through. So that's the who are they, what do they do, what, when, where. So when they're in session, they're going to be most likely in Tallahassee all the time, because that's where they have all their hearings. But the rest of the time, they should be at their local office. And when you use those links to look up who your representatives are, it will tell you what their local address is. And I recommend emailing them, calling them. If they'll accept in-person appointments, get in front of them, share your story. They're the only ones, ultimately, who are going to be able to make a difference, like a real difference in what's going on in our prisons. So that's the who, what, when, where, why. So like I've been saying, why is it important? Well, it's important because when we elect them into office and we expect them to represent us, so when they come back up for re-election, we need to evaluate, are they supporting the things that we are interested in or not? And if they're not, then we need to figure out, well, do they not support criminal justice reform, or do they not know that we expect them to? So are we not setting the bar of expectation where it needs to be? And you may think, well, I'm only one person. They're not going to listen to me. Your voice matters because you might only be one person. But if you think of the 2 million people in the United States that are incarcerated, or the 90,000 that are incarcerated in Florida, if each 90,000 has one person speaking for them, that's a pretty loud voice. You know, if we can get 2 people speaking for each one that's incarcerated, 180,000 voices, pretty loud. It's pretty loud. So we need to make clear what we expect. Now be kind, be respectful, be honest though, and be straightforward. Tell them why it's important to you. What is your story? What's happened to your loved one? What happened to you when you were in there? They need to know. They probably don't want to know, but they need to know what's going on, and they need to know that we expect them to fix it, because what's happening in there is just not acceptable. And I've said it before that silence is a form of acceptance, and we can't just keep acting like we are okay with what's going on, because the people in there deserve better. We deserve better. I shouldn't be anxious 24 hours a day because my husband is in prison. There shouldn't be that much worry involved. Now, I'm not worried for the most part about other people that are in there that are incarcerated. I'm worried about the corrupt officers. I'm worried about the lack of medical care. I'm worried about the drugs that are in there. I'm worried about the gang members. I am worried about. Some of the gangs run prisons. It's not the officers. It's the gangs, and that's just the truth. But they need to know that. So if that's a problem where you did time, or if that's a problem where your loved one is doing time, you need to get in front of these legislators and say, look, this is what's going on. And this is what I expect you to do to help the situation. Try to come up with solutions. Don't just go to them with problems, but come up with suggestions for solutions. Give them something to chew on and think about and work with. It's important for us to let them know what's wrong, but it's important for us to tell them how we expect them to fix it. What kind of solutions do you see possible? So I just really encourage you to get involved with your legislators. I never did. I never knew anything about it. Honestly didn't. Never affected me. Out of sight, out of mind. But we have to do better as a society on that. Even if it doesn't affect you directly, you need to be involved in what's going on, instead of this little handful of people running things and they have no idea what's going on. You and I are the experts. They aren't. They just aren't. So I encourage you to read that article. If you don't read any other article on my blog, I encourage you to read the legislation one. I encourage you to find your representatives and I encourage you to interact with them, get to know them, and let them know why this is important to you, what's important to you, and what you expect of them. So I hope that you will subscribe to follow me and check out my blog, journeythroughthepen.com. And my next article on my blog is resources for families that I have found along the way. I'm probably not going to do a video for that one because it's really just more like links that are available and things I have found throughout the last 37 months. So I encourage you to read that one. Comment if you have a resource that I didn't catch, and I will see you next time.